Acura's all-new ADX, a compact SUV that isn't just built for one thing, it's precision crafted for everything. To escape the grind with available all-wheel drive. To go with your flow with available Google built-in.
Hey Google, turn it up.
Okay, turning up the volume. And crafted to be heard with an available Bang & Olufsen premium sound system. The all-new Acura ADX, crafted to match your energy. Acura, precision crafted performance.
Take your vibes on go.
Google is a trademark of Google LLC.
The NBA playoffs are here, and I'm getting my bets in on FanDuel. Talk to me, Chuck GPT. What do you know?
All sorts of interesting stuff, even Charles Barkley's greatest fear.
Hey, nobody needs to know that.
New customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets if you win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
21 plus and present in Virginia. Must be first online real money wager. $5 deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus vest that expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
In 2014, director Chad Stahelski and star Keanu Reeves gave the world a dynamic action thriller that shot straight into the hearts of the American public.
In 2025, we try a whiskey that ushers the hundreds of people killed in this movie to the pearly gates.
The film is John Wick.
The whiskey is Heaven's Door Revival Tennessee Bourbon.
And we'll review them both. This is the Film and Whiskey Podcast.
Welcome to the Film and Whiskey Podcast, where each week we review a classic movie and a glass of whiskey. I'm Bob Book.
I'm Brad G.
And this is the final episode of season number 9, Brad. Or we should say the final movie review of season 9.
Season number 9?
Oh my gosh,
number
man. 9 full seasons with you. Who'd have thunk
It's
it?
incredible. Yeah, we are a little over 6 years into the podcast. Bob, how does that feel?
I feel old and I feel tired. That's all I got to say, man.
My hair is so gray compared to when we started this podcast.
I just keep thinking back to like week number 2 or 3 of this season. We reviewed the movie The Help, and that line where at the end when she just looks at Bryce Dallas Howard and she's like, "Ain't you tired, Miss Hilly? Ain't you tired?" Like, yes, I am tired. I'm very tired. But hey, man, we're ending on a high note. We kind of hung on to this one for a while, and I figured, why not throw it in at the end? I always like to end the season on a fun movie. And John Wick is,
if you will.
Yeah, dude, a rat-a-tat-tat. And John Wick is definitely that. There are many headshots in this movie, and it's a movie that kind of sparked a mini revolution in action cinema. It's hard to believe that this movie is a decade plus, but it's also kind of hard to believe that it's only been a decade since this movie came out. You know, there are now 4 John Wick movies and a spin-off movie coming this year. So, and I think they did a TV show last year called The Continental. So there's like the John Wick IP has infiltrated pretty much every media at this point. It's weird to think about a world without John Wick, Brad.
Yeah, for me, I feel like I was kind of on the outside looking in. The first time I saw John Wick was probably like 2021, 2022. Mm-hmm. So I never really understood it, but all of my friends talked about it a lot. They really liked it. And I will say, like, I think the main thing that makes this stand out as an action movie is that they do just enough world building. They create like this mythos around hitmen that I think that's why this struck a note, is that it's not quite an alternate reality, but there's just enough going on that you're like, oh, this is a cool like vision of the underworld that like the average Chad out there, Chad Stahelski included, I'm sure, like would just be down with and be like, oh man, I kind of wish this world existed.
Yeah, it's really, really good economical use of both the screenplay and the budget, right? Like they couldn't really expand on the world that they hint at in this movie, given the budget constraints. But it also like it does a really brilliant thing for the first chapter in what would go on to become many installments. in that it hints at a bigger world, and it's just enough to whet your appetite. But this movie stays laser focused on being kind of a boots on the ground movie. Like, there are things, you know, around John Wick and above his pay grade happening that we kind of get glimpses into, but we're going to save that for sequels if sequels happen. And I guess I'll set the stage today, Brad, by saying I never watched any of the John Wick movies until I believe last year, or the maybe 23, whenever the fourth movie came out. I was like, dude, it's time for me to watch these movies. I keep hearing great things about them. And I kind of marathoned the first three and then went to see the fourth one in theaters. And I'm very impressed, like, revisiting this movie. Right before we recorded, or I guess right before I rewatched this movie last night, I texted you and said, hey, man, it's only been like a year since I've seen this. You know, I'm going to rewatch it again tonight, but I'm pretty sure I know where I'm going to land score-wise. And I got to tell you, man, I'm going to come out to a higher score than I initially told you I would. I think this is a really good, economical, basically 90-minute movie that doesn't try to be more than it is. It's just trashy enough to be fun. And it's just serious enough to have that sheen of professionalism about it that I was pretty impressed with this all the way around, man.
I like your use of the basically a 40-minute or a 90-minute movie, which essentially means it's in the hour 40 range.
Yeah. I mean, I think credits roll at like 1:35 and there's like 6 minutes of credits. So, you know, you're in and you're out in 95 minutes, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what a action movie like this should be. Mm-hmm. Like, it's when an action movie hits that like 2:15 that, unless you're Mad Max Fury Road, which I don't even think that's that long, unless you're able to hold on to that tension, give good moments of breathing throughout, like, it's very rare to have an action movie that's worth spending more than 2.5 hours on. So yeah, this is, I would say in some ways, like, a very good, probably, I don't know, like a teaching point if you were in film school, like, on how to make an economical action film.
Well, and I think that given how big John Wick, the franchise, has become, it's always hard to revisit the first installment where they didn't know if there were going to be sequels. They set things up, you know, as cliffhangers, I guess, or as ways we could go. But it's such a small movie in that, like, it doesn't span multiple continents. It didn't cost hundreds of millions of dollars to make. It kind of reminds me of like when you go back and watch the first Fast and the Furious movie, which is just a fun little crappy B movie about like Vin Diesel wants to steal DVD players and we're going to soup up some cars to do it. And it's like, oh man, remember what this used to be before they went to space in a car? Like, it's John Wick has kind of become that for me. Not that it ever got bad, but it was really refreshing to go back and see like, no, we just made a really good movie. And it spread because word of mouth was really good on it. And then we expanded the universe in the sequel. So what you know about it now, I think people sometimes read that back on the first movie. And that's not really what the first movie is. It's its own thing. And I'm excited to talk about it kind of divorced from what it's become.
And I will be the perfect person to do that with, Bob, because guess what?
What's that?
I've never seen any of the other movies.
Hey, there you go. Well, I think that might be a perfect segue, Brad, into our first segment of the day, which we call Brad Explains.
Brad's gonna give us the movie plot with only 60 seconds ticking on the clock. So let's go ahead and hear your take with this little segment that we call Brad Explains.
Brad Explains is the part of the show where Brad breaks down the plot of the film he has just seen, often for the first time. So if I'm understanding this correctly, this is at least watch number 2 for you of John Wick. But we are on 0 watches for the rest of the franchise.
That is absolutely correct. This was my second time viewing it, and I have never watched 2, 3, 4, or the show. And I probably won't. You know, it's not really on my to-do list. But yeah, I was glad to come back to it again for the podcast.
All right, man. Well, you have 1 minute to spoil this movie. Now, folks, I haven't really given my welcome into the podcast spiel, so I'll do that here. Welcome into Film and Whiskey. If this is your first time joining us, you may have figured out by now, we review movies and we review whiskey. This season, what we've been doing is we've been going through a list of 32 movies that met specific criteria for us, and the question we're asking about those movies is, does this film deserve to be considered a modern masterpiece? Now, those criteria were how much money it made at the U.S. box office, at least 100 mil. Was it nominated for Best Picture? Is it in the IMDb Top 250? Is it in the Letterboxd Top 250? John Wick is a movie that I believe only checks one of those boxes. This is only a box office movie, but like I said, its influence has stretched far beyond what I think anyone would have anticipated back in 2014. So it's absolutely worth talking about here. Just because they didn't, give the Baba Yaga a Best Picture nomination doesn't mean it's not an influential movie.
And I think it's fair. Like, I don't think this is a Best Picture worthy movie. I do think it is worthy for consideration for the, like you said, Bob, the effect that it had on action films going forward.
100%, man. Now, your task, Brad, is to explain what the hell happens in this movie. You have 1 minute to do so, and you're going to do it with full spoilers. So, folks, if you have not seen John Wick, like Brad and I until recently, hit pause here, go back and watch the movie, and then rejoin us. Brad, 1 minute and go.
John Wick is a film that follows its titular character as he is mourning the death of his wife, and he is introduced to a small, adorable, maybe perhaps the cutest dog ever to be in a film, Bob.
Pretty cute.
Like an 8-week-old beagle puppy, in the research I found, who gets murdered by an evil young Russian oligarch's son. Not even oligarch, he's just a crime boss. And so John Wick goes on a murder spree and kills the entire organization that he apparently set up because he was trying to get out of the murder business, and this mob boss made him kill everybody else, and now he's like the only guy in town.
Yep.
So he kills them all. He kills them dead, Bob. He just murders and shoots and cracks spines. And there's death and cars and boom and bah, John Wick.
There's a lot of death, man. He goes on a real revenge spree here. And I think that might be a good place for us to kind of start, Brad, with the revenge elements of this movie. As I started watching the film, I think it became really obvious really quick what some of the influences on this movie were, like both in the way that it looks and just like what it's about. And it really harkens back to some of those like revenge thrillers of the 70s and 80s. We've talked before about there's a series with Charles Bronson called Death Wish, where he just becomes a vigilante. There's a lot of that going on here. And I think that the early going of this movie was, I think for me, the hardest part to get through, the most kind of amateurishly put together, all the flashbacks to his dead wife, like that stuff just didn't work for me. And the slow reveal that like
my wife's not dead. I don't have any empathy for this man.
Boo this man. Boo him and his dead wife. No, but like the slow reveal that, he speaks Russian. He's like racing this Mustang around. What's that sledgehammer that he's like revealing a gigantic stash of coins and a shotgun with? Like you start to learn things about him, but it's really not until they get to, hey, let's understand the world that he came from, that this movie starts to click for me. And I say all that to say the first note I took on this movie was like, I think it's kind of trying to be Unforgiven, the Clint Eastwood movie, but with like without any of the like mournfulness. Like there's definitely a sense of I'm getting pulled back into a world. Violence is inevitable. This is my fate. But it's much more celebratory of like, hell yeah, John Wick. Go embrace your fate than Unforgiven, which is like, this is a tragedy,
Yeah, he definitely doesn't have the reticence. It's like, no, everything got torn from me, so I'm going to dive back into this pool of blood head first, right into the deep end, ready to roll. It did. I guess I wanted to say it didn't take much. Just the death of his wife and the dog that his dying wife sent him. So maybe that is a lot to get him back in. But at the point at which we are with him, he seems very ready to roll.
There are a few things, and I'm going to praise this movie for most of the runtime of this episode. But there are a couple things that are just like, we need this scene right here to make the script work, and I don't want you to ask any questions about how this is possible. But my dying wife, who apparently died very suddenly, like she collapses and then she's dead. She somehow had enough time
very slowly.
Yeah, well, she had enough time to wake up and like the presence of mind to like go on like orderapuppy.com and have it shipped to my guy. And the delivery happens at like 9 p.m. Like, what is going on with this dog service that they're just like, here's your living animal that you didn't know about. See you later, man. Is this a thing people can do?
To me, it seemed like the collapsing was like a sign of something going on, you know? Because later, at some point, I think he's watching a video of her, or I don't know. There's a point where she talks about how hard this has been on the two of them. Mm-hmm. And so it seems to me like it was a somewhat sudden, but, you know, they had a few weeks or a month or two together before she died. And at that point, yes, she went on, I'm dying and I want my spouse to have a puppy.com.
Yeah.
I think her and Gerard Butler's wife, or Gerard Butler from P.S. I Love You, went to the same website, I bet.
I mean, it's a very niche website, but when you need a puppy and you are dying, there's really nowhere else to go.
They should be paying us money for this.
I know, man. We need to have them sponsor us next season. Just a couple other small notes about like why is this happening in the movie? When after they've raided his house and, spoiler alert, killed his puppy, and they've driven like a baseball bat through the windshield of his other vehicle. He rides the bus into town, but does not bother to change his shirt. Like, he just gets off the bus covered in blood.
Yeah.
And then like
the bus driver's just kind of like, it's a Greyhound.
Like, no one cares.
You know?
Yeah. I also love the cop that shows up while he's disposing of all the guys that the Russians send after him.
Hey, Jimmy.
Yeah, and it's like, honestly, I want more about that, because it's like, how does this guy know about what John Wick does for a living? Because he says, like, are you working again? And John Wick's like, no, I'm just having some friends over or something. He just kind of like walks slowly away. There's just so many weird random things needed to get the plot in motion in this movie. Now, I will say, once the plot's in motion, like from the 30-minute mark to the end of the movie, fantastic. It's a little clunky getting there.
The part at the end where he breaks into apparently a veterinarian like pound shelter, maybe, who knows what it is, and he just takes one of the dogs,
just snatches a dog. Also, that was a note I took too. Did you know that if you get a deep stab wound, all you have to do is staple the exterior skin and you're pretty much good to go? Yeah,
you're set. I mean, that'll at least get him back to the Continental, you know, where the doctor who's always in, and that's the beautiful thing about this movie, man. It leaves you with so many questions about the world. Some of them are a little ridiculous and detract from the movie, but like 80% of the questions you're left with are like, oh, I want to see more of this.
So as the films go on, they build the mythos of the Continental out. There's like a whole secret society and, you know, the codes of honor and everything. But even inside the building of the Continental, there's like weird, wacky rules going on, and John Wick gets more tech in the second movie. They develop a like a suit coat, like a blazer for him to wear, and it moves like a suit coat, but it's made out of Kevlar. So like as the movies go on, these guys are like shooting at each other, and then they're just like hiding behind their like suit coat. Like they'll put their suit coat next to their face and it just deflects bullets. They get so ridiculous. And I think that's what I really appreciated about this one, because I couldn't remember if that was this one or the second one where they start introducing that stuff. But this one really does stay grounded. Like, for all the stuff about here's a hotel just for assassins, we have a code, they only tell you what you need to know about the code that's pertinent to this movie and this plot. And they're not trying to like create a whole world. You know, it's not like they're building the Silmarillion of John Wick mythos here.
Yeah, and you know, there's just so many little tiny things that are hints of other mythology, like Lance Reddick's character, the concierge who knows everything. His name's Charon, and you give him gold coins to ensure safe passage through the Continental. It's like, there's just good little small pieces that make you that draw you in. I think the fascinating thing that they do with the character of John Wick is they make him kind of a good guy, which feels really strange, and it starts with the cop that you mentioned earlier, that, Jimmy the cop, who's like, hey man, are you back in the business of murdering people? And it's like, no, just to dip my toes in the water a little bit. And the cop's like, all right. And you're like, hold up a second. This is the most famous hitman in the world who set up the current like Russian black market kingpin with his murder spree. Like, I don't think I'm on John Wick's side.
Right.
Like the people who say that like his wife's death is karma, I'm like, yeah, are they wrong?
No, I actually really love the Russian oligarch, or the Russian mobster in that scene where they've captured him. I think, honestly, let's talk about that scene for a minute, because I think that might be the best scene in the whole movie. So for most of the film, John Wick is presented as kind of the strong, silent type. He's very stoic. And I think on paper, you understand that he is grieving, but you don't really see, like, there's a scene where he cries when his wife dies. Let's be frank here. It's Keanu Reeves. I don't
boring for Bob, who has
me.
A live wife.
Yeah. Again, I couldn't care less about this guy's dead wife. So the scene where they actually capture him after he's annihilated the entire Russian mafia army. And he just says, like, you and me are cursed. Like, this is a thing that will haunt us for the rest of our lives. I'm giving you my son. Your wife was taken from you. Everything is karma. I was like, actually, yeah, I totally agree with you, man. This is the best thing that anyone in this movie has said. And I think part of the reason that scene works so well is Keanu hasn't really given you anything all movie. And to see like the rage boil up in John Wick, the first time he's really lost his cool, and he's like, everybody keeps telling me I'm back. And then you get the great line of like, and now, yeah, I'm thinking I'm back. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I felt like it took the movie to a whole other level for me.
Oh, Bob, that line is so bad.
Oh, dude.
But I think it's Keanu Reeves at his absolute worst.
Oh, see, that was like literally the moment I said, I think Reeves is actually quite good in this movie. I think that he captures exactly what he needs to hit, like the notes he needs to hit in that scene of like, he's never going to be a guy that talks much, but for just that second, like you get the spilling over of emotion from this character who never has any emotion. I thought he was really good in that scene, man.
And it's not necessarily him. Like, I think he does a good job of expressing emotion. For me, it's the script. Like, that's a terrible line. And Keanu Reeves is not the actor who can take a terrible line and make it like dark and menacing and a great line. And, there's just a lot of actors out there that can take a terrible line and make it good. And only when you go back a few times, you're like, that's actually not a good line, but, Tom Hanks delivers because he's Tom Hanks, or,
right.
Denzel or De Niro. Keanu's not that guy, man. He is not able to take a terrible line and give it the depth and meaning it needs. For me, that was the part where I just kind of was like, it's Keanu being Keanu. Why don't you go back and act in the lake house, Keanu?
So I think this is our third Keanu Reeves movie. Like, we did The Matrix, we've done this, and we did Point Break, where we get the amazing line, I am an FBI agent, which is 10 times worse than any line in this film. So,
what a great movie.
I mean, there are other Keanus we could watch. Like, we could go back and watch Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure someday, and I quite frankly hope we do. But I think we know enough of Keanu and his range as an actor that we can comfortably talk about, like, whether or not he's good in something. And then also, like, whether he's giving a good Keanu performance. You got to grade Keanu on a curve. And this movie really opened up a lot of goodwill towards Keanu. He had a moment again after this where I remember for like years and years, there was this thing on the internet that Keanu doesn't age. And I remember thinking, like, what are you talking about? Like, he clearly looks like a man in his 50s in this movie. He just has long hair and a beard. But, like, you can tell looking at the structure of his face that if he shaved, he would look significantly older than he has since he grew that beard. I just think it's so funny because, like, people love Keanu. He's such a good guy that I felt like this movie becomes a success, and then everyone was like, Keanu is like this untouchable, beloved person in the film community, and not just like a pretty bad actor that we kind of like sometimes.
That's what he is. And I think one of the reasons he garnered so much attention afterwards was because of his attention to detail on the stunt work in this movie and the gunmanship. Like he nails it, man. There were videos circulating of him doing like SWAT team type, courses where you're shooting with a rifle and then a shotgun and then a pistol and like doing all of these different things with guns. And he's genuinely really good at it. And I think that was a big piece of what made him famous again, was that he kind of hit that tide of social media, YouTube culture of 2014, where there was just kind of this obsession with like people doing things well on the internet. And he just rode that tide back into stardom. And people think he's a great actor now, and he's not. But he works really hard, and I there's a lot to admire there, man.
Yep. So there's a director named Gareth Evans, not to be confused with Gareth Edwards, the Godzilla guy. But Gareth Evans did a couple movies called The Raid, and I think they're like, man, are they Taiwanese? They're not Chinese films, but they're from they're Asian set films. And like the entire...
Be careful mixing up Taiwan films with China
right?
films, Bob.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying very hard to tiptoe around that issue. The entire premise of the first Raid movie is like, this guy is basically on a SWAT team, and this entire high-rise building is controlled by the mafia. And they have to basically like fight their way to the top of the building to take out this guy. And it is one of the best action movies I've ever seen. The second one I think is even better. But hand-to-hand combat, gunplay, knife play. It's insanely violent, but like so much stunt work and really long takes. And I think that like people who have seen the Raid movies watch John Wick, and there is a level of respect for the stunt work that goes into these movies. But there's something about like when all the scenes just end in someone having like a headshot, the stunt, I don't appreciate the stunt work as much. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that scene in Mission Impossible Fallout where they're like in the bathroom and Henry Cavill does his arm pumping thing. Like that scene is 10 times more exciting to me than anything in John Wick, because it's like these guys throw 3 punches and then Keanu pins them down and shoots them in the head. And I think that's always been my knock on John Wick, is like, guys, if you like John Wick, go watch The Raid. It's like the platonic ideal version of what this movie could be.
You do know that we have a section of the show for that, Bob, right?
That's true. I mean, have you ever heard of those movies, Brad? They got kind of popular in like an underground way.
Yeah, no, I have not heard of them. I did actually just watch. I'm guessing that they are Asian dialogue, like wherever they are from in Asia.
Yes.
They are not in English. I did just watch a international foreign film. I believe out of Hong Kong recently, Bob. Do you want to know about that one?
Please tell me.
It was called In the Mood for Love.
Oh, I love that movie.
Excellent.
Very similar to Past Lives. A little bit slower, if I'm going to be honest.
Yep. Excellent film.
Yeah, really good. Hong Kong, actually, a great segue, Brad, because there's a director from Hong Kong that made his way to the States in the 90s named John Woo. John Woo, a very influential action director. And some of his earlier movies, like Hard Boiled, were huge influences on John Wick here. And I think that's a segue for me, Brad, to talk about, I think the second film that I wrote down as an influence besides Unforgiven is the Michael Mann film Collateral, a movie that we've done on this podcast that also features a very climactic nightclub shootout. And Michael Mann, people love the dude. I appreciate many of his films. I'm going to be honest, man. I think that the bathhouse nightclub sequence in this film was better for me than the Collateral one. Yeah, I think that's the moment where this movie kind of went up a level in terms of you could see where every dollar went on the screen. Like it's a pretty cheap movie, but like the lighting is very bold and tons of contrast, lots of shadow. They just did a great job filming that sequence.
As I was watching it, it felt like video game-esque to me, but like in a good way. Like there's the portion where he's sneaking in and, you know, he gets in and he kills a few people without anyone knowing. And he does it at the right time so that they're checking in and the person will like be like, you know, area 3 clear. And then they die right after they get off the radio. And it's this awesome little moment of stealth that finally devolves into, you know, the wrong guy at the wrong time shoots his gun and it just falls into utter pure chaos. And within that chaos, I think what I love about the action in these movies is his ability to handle all of the wild things happening around them. And yet he gives John Wick, Keanu Reeves, such a vision of movement and purpose. And there's no wasted movement. He knows exactly where he's going and what he needs to do next. And it feels like he is reacting in the moment, almost like a Matrix-esque, like he's able to go into like a bullet time slow motion and do exactly what he needs, but it's all in absolute 100% full real time that you just get a really awesome juxtaposition of chaos and discipline that makes for very compelling action sequences.
Well, and I thought that like there are moments of sheer brutality that aren't glossed over. That's one of the things about these movies that like really bothers me is there's so many headshots and CGI spurts of blood that it feels like a video game sometimes. But then you have the moment of the guy picking up John Wick and throwing him off the balcony and he hits a concrete floor. And the way the camera kind of drops along with him and then it doesn't smoothly stop. It's kind of panned down. It just like thuds. You can feel the impact of that hit on the floor. Now, again, apparently Keanu Reeves is a Superman and can get up from having his back absolutely shattered by that fall. But I really appreciate those kind of moments in this film. It's what takes it from being kind of like a cheaply made, slick looking direct to DVD movie and elevate it to something more.
Dude, the way he hits the floor reminds me of when Bilbo drops the one ring and it like slams to the floor and it's so heavy and you're like, it like you feel the weight of the ring and like you feel the weight of that fall. It just feels so sudden and impactful.
Well, Brad, I think this might be a good time for us to hit pause. We've been talking so much about the headshots and the many people killed in this movie. I think that we have found a really good thematic pairing with our whiskey today. So what do you say we go try this Heaven's Door Tennessee bourbon?
I don't know how many of them are at Heaven's Door, but sure, let's go do it.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. From streaming to shopping, Prime helps you get more out of your passions. So whether you're a fan of true crime or prefer a nail-biting novel from time to time, with services like Prime Video, Amazon Music, and fast free delivery, Prime makes it easy to get more out of whatever you're into or getting into. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to learn more.
At Sierra, discover top workout gear at incredible prices, which might lead to another discovery. Your headphones haven't been connected this whole time. Awkward. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
All right, so today we are checking out Heaven's Door Revival Tennessee Straight Bourbon Whiskey. Brad, this is the first whiskey we've ever had from the Heaven's Door label, and if you are a fan of music and or the song Knockin' on Heaven's Door, then you know that this is a collaboration or a celebrity-endorsed line of whiskey by the great Bob Dylan. Now, Brad, I think we could not have picked a better whiskey thematically for the amount of kills in this movie to pair up with a whiskey called Knockin' on Heaven's Door. I have to give myself a pat on the back for this one.
Yeah. Did you know that they say, the director and I think Keanu, that this is like free trivia for you, Bob, to get you prepared for 2 facts and a falsehood.
Okay.
He kills around 76 to 87 people in the film.
I like how they
sends him right on up to Heaven's Door.
They couldn't even pinpoint it. They're like, let me give you a potential range of people. We don't actually see some of them die on screen, so we're just going to leave it open to interpretation.
I think it was like the director said one number, Keanu said another, and like people who have counted it, there's a few deaths that you're like, maybe that person didn't die. Who knows?
Who's to say?
Another fun fact, when he asks the doorman how much weight he's lost, he says 60 kilograms, telling John Wick that there are 60 people inside, that guards, I should say, and that's why he lets them live.
Interesting. All right, well, can we say some fun facts now about the whiskey that we're drinking today, Brad? Because I'm super excited to dive into this one. Like we said, this is a Tennessee straight bourbon whiskey. It's aged for a minimum of 6 years old. This is a sample that was given to us by our friend Zach Johnston, and we had just a hell of a time trying to figure out what this was, because it came in a sample bottle with a picture on it and no words. And I am enough of a drunk that I recognized it as a Heaven's Door product, but the color of the label is different than the color of the label on the actual 750 milliliter bottle. We had to do quite a bit of research to figure out that this is what it says it is, Brad. And so I've just gone ahead and pulled up our friend Zach Johnston's notes on this whiskey on Uprocks from back in the day. And this is what he says about it, just so that I know this is what he gave us. It's aged for a minimum of 6 years old. The barrels are left in a single-story rickhouse in Tennessee, and this is Zach's words, where the cold air dominates, and you never get the extremely high temps of crow's nests on high floors. Okay, so once they're aged for the appropriate amount of time, the barrels are batched, the whiskey's proofed down, and we get this 46% or 92 proof whiskey. Brad, I'm excited to dive in. It's been a minute since we've had a Tennessee whiskey on this podcast. What are your nosing notes on this bad boy?
This one has a really nice cinnamon spice going on here. It gets a little bit minty. There's vanilla, cherry, and it kind of reminds me, we've given this note a few times before, of like a strawberry cream savor. I'm a big fan of this nose, Bob. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10.
I'm going to be at just a 7.5, Brad. And I like a lot of the notes on this, but then there's like this one note kind of underlying all of it. And I'm just going to be as frank as I possibly can. It's just like a cheap whiskey note. It's a little bit astringent. It's a little bit like acetone, and it's bugging me a little bit. I'm hoping that it's a more well-rounded flavor when we get to that. But I'm with you. I pick up a bunch of vanilla. There's cherry. There's strawberry. It's really, really nice. Almost a wheat character. But then there's like this, hey, this is a $15 bottle of whiskey that you found in your cousin's basement note going on here. And I'm a little concerned. So 7.5 for me because I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, and the palate has a lot of those flavors just muted down a little bit. For me, the vanilla really sticks out. The cinnamon is there. It gets a little bit of a rye spiciness. And I felt like it has like a little bit of an apple pie filling flavor. It's like really kind of sugary and a little bit of that apple juiciness. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 on the palate.
Yeah, I think I'll be in the same spot. This is really good. Like definitely above average, and I would say even a step above that. It's not going to knock your socks off, but that sort of like black cherry ice cream note is really coming through for me. It's got quite a bit of spice. That mintiness definitely makes itself known on the palate more than it did. So yeah, 8 out of 10 for me on the palate. And then on the finish, I'm going to give it an 8 again. It's a long-lasting finish. There's a little bit of prickliness that sticks behind on your palate. And then again, that cherry note is really, really present here. Differently than it usually is for us on like a wheated bourbon. This is not cherry cola. This is like black cherry. I really like this a lot. 8 out of 10 on the finish, Brad.
Yeah, I'll give it an 8.5 out of 10 on the finish. For me, it gets a little bit into a bread vibe. There's some leather, cinnamon, mint, and like you said, man, that dark cherry really sticks around for a while. I think this is a pretty well-balanced whiskey, Bob. I think there's some really good flavors and notes going on. And it's just complex enough to say that I think this is a 9 out of 10 on balance.
Yeah, I feel like my score seems a little bit inflated because I'm not overly impressed with this whiskey. Like, it's good. But to me, it's like no better than good. It's a fun night out with friends. And sometimes that's all you need. You know what I mean? But in the grand scheme of things, I do think it's well-balanced. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 on balance. And then when it comes to the price or the value, At the time of review, back in 2023, Zach noted that this averages at $54.99 a bottle. So I don't know what it's going for today. Brad, do you have stats on that?
Yeah, Bob, this is coming in at $54.99.
All right. Screw you, inflation. We're staying at the same price. I love it. Thanks, Bob Dylan. Brad, I think at 55, this is not a bad value per se. It's a sourced whiskey that's 6 years old. I wish it was cheaper. This screams $40 whiskey to me, but 55 is not awful. I think I'll give it a 6 out of 10 on value.
I think it's a better value than that.
Oh.
I think you have some really interesting flavors and there's a depth and a complexity to it. I'll give it a 7.5 out of 10.
All right, so that's taking me out to a 37.5 out of 50. Brad, where are you falling on this one?
I'm at a 42 out of 50.
Oh my gosh, 42. Dang, all right, so that's taking us to a 79.5 out of 100, or a 39.75 on average. I'm a little bit shocked at how much you liked this one, man. It's a good whiskey, don't get me wrong, but I don't think I would have pinpointed this as a 40-plus whiskey.
Yeah, I don't know if I would have either. If I just drank this and said give it a score out of 50, I probably would have came to like a 40, 39.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, our combined score is right about where I'm at. But hey, each individual part was pretty delicious here, Bob.
All right, Brad. So we're coming, like I said, to a 39.75 out of 50, just shy of our kind of no-brainer 40 mark recommendation. I will give this a thumbs up. I think I would probably put it in the try it before you buy it category. Like, I don't know if I'd recommend just running out and buying a bottle, but this would probably set you back, $12 a pour at the bar. And I think it's definitely worth that.
Yeah, easily. This is well worth it. It's a really, really fun whiskey that has lots of great flavors. I'd say go pick up a bottle. Go for it.
Even though John Wick himself is a tater and drinks Blantons very prominently in this film, I think that he probably would have liked pairing his exploits with this whiskey as well, Brad.
Yeah. John Wick is the ultimate, patron saint of hustle culture bros. So, Blanton's makes a lot of sense.
Sure. But this is the true working man's whiskey.
Yeah, it is, Bob.
All right, man. What do you say we get back into John Wick?
Let's get to it.
Hey there, travelers. Kaylee Cuoco here. Sorry to interrupt your music, great artist BT Dubs, but wouldn't you rather be there to hear it live? With Priceline, you can get out of your dreams and into your dream concert. They've got millions of travel deals to get you to that festival, gig, rave, sound bath, or sonic experience you've been dreaming of. Download the Priceline app today, and you can save up to 60% off hotels and up to 50% off flights. So don't just dream about that trip. Book it with Priceline.
Go to your happy price, Priceline.
This message comes from Greenlight. Ready to start talking to your kids about financial literacy? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app that teaches kids and teens how to earn, save, spend wisely, and invest with your guardrails in place. With Greenlight, you can send money to kids quickly, set up chores, automate allowance, and keep an eye on your kids' spending with real-time notifications. Join millions of parents and kids building healthy financial habits together on Greenlight. Get started risk-free at greenlight.com/Spotify.
All right, everybody, that was Heaven's Door Revival, a bourbon that we overall really liked. Yeah. I think Bob was a little cooler on it, but, good reports, good marks, well done.
Yeah, I liked it. And I think, once again, I knocked it out of the park with tying it to the afterlife because John Wick sent a good many people there.
Just so many. It's wild.
Brad, speaking of knocking on heaven's door here, I am feeling a sense of euphoria and paradise myself because I think I have secured a winning season when it comes to our next game, 2 Facts and a Falsehood.
Brad is gonna try to stump you, Bob, to all right and what is wrong. 2 Facts and a Falsehood.
2 Facts and a Falsehood is the part of the show where Brad presents me with 3 items as fact about the making of this movie, one of which is a complete lie. Now, like I said, Brad, I haven't done the official tally. I want to say I'm at 17 wins on the season, so I'm definitely over 500. We're playing for pride at this point, so I hope you've done your homework because, as you know, I am a noted John Wick expert, Brad.
Obviously, yes. All the violence that you do and commit in your real life, it just translates here to the movie.
This is based on me, is what I'm saying. All right, man, hit me with your two facts and a falsehood.
Fact number 1, the security guard who waves Wick onto the airport runway is reading the 1970s thriller novel Shibumi by Rod Whitaker under the pen name Trevanian, also about a retired master assassin dragged back into the game. The story Vigo tells about how Wick once killed 3 men with a pencil is describing a crucial scene from the same novel. Fact number 2, the pistols that Keanu Reeves used throughout the film were a Smith & Wesson M&P 45 with a custom compensator and a Glock 19 when he is in the Red Circle Club and has to switch guns after running out of ammo. Fact number 3, during the hand-to-hand combat scenes, John Wick shows himself to be a judoka and use the Japanese traditional jujutsu, also known as judo. Judo is a Japanese martial art emphasizing throws. On the other hand, his rival assassin, Ms. Perkins, uses the Brazilian jiu-jitsu as her fighting style.
I hate facts like fact number 2 because I first of all, I don't know enough about guns to be intelligent and disprove it if it is false. But secondly, like, I learned nothing about that fact. You know what I mean? It'd be like you saying, like,
sure,
the shoes that this person wore were a pair of Jordan 3s that go for $2,000. It's like, okay, cool. Like, sure.
Neat.
Yeah. So I hate number 2 and therefore want to give it no further attention. So I'm going to say it's true. 1 and 3 is what we're narrowing this down to. I'm going to say that 1 is the falsehood because I don't really remember much about it. And I don't want to prolong this any further. I think three was very detailed. So if you wrote that one, like, kudos to you, because that took a while to write all that.
Thanks, man.
1 also was very detailed. That's right. That was the one about the security guard and the anecdote of him killing a guy with 3 guys with a pencil, which is really funny. It reminds me of that scene in Ratatouille, which we just watched, where they talk about how the sous chef was like, I killed 3 men with this
with
thumb.
the pinky.
Yeah.
Honestly, it made me think of Matt Damon, the first Bourne movie where he kills that dude with the pen.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna say number 1 is the falsehood, Brad, but I'm not confident in this.
I'm going to say that in a season full of victories for you, how does it feel to end on a loss?
No! Was it 3 or 2?
It was number 2.
Number 2 was the falsehood. Okay. Yeah. Well, you wrote a shitty fact is what I'm saying.
The number 3 felt very similar to number 2. It's like, here's the guns he used. Here's the fighting style he used.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
You know.
Boo. What I'm saying is boo.
I think you picked the most interesting one as the falsehood.
Maybe I just wanted to talk about that one more, like, you know?
Yeah, it was good. I kind of want to go read Shibumi now and learn about Master Assassin.
Not to be confused with Shapoopy from The Music Man.
The way that you said Shibumi, I was like, oh yeah, Shapoopy.
Exactly. All right, man, let's get back into talking about this movie a little bit. Brett, I don't really have two... Go ahead.
I would say, here's the thing, Bob. I mentioned it during our time of whiskey. I think one of my problems with this movie might not even be the movie itself, because I enjoyed the movie. It was fun. It's a good action flick. It feels like John Wick is the patron saint of hustle bro Chad culture. Like, he's disciplined. And if he's going to be a lover and a husband, he's going to be the absolute best one that ever existed. And if he's going to take care of this dog, he's going to be the best dog owner ever. And if he also wants to be a master assassin, he will be the greatest in the world. And it's like, it feels like that is 3 things that certain online communities worship.
Oh, yeah.
Is like women, dogs, and guns.
Yep.
And
well,
like that's
also,
fine, man.
like,
I like all those 3. I love all those 3 things. My wife's great. Guns are great. Dogs are fun. Like I'm fine with all of them. But there's something about this movie.
Let it be known. Hold on. I'm sorry. Guns are great. Dogs are fine. Those are the words you just used. Can we say anything more American than that on this podcast? No, man, I'm with you. And I think that even more than just those three things, it appeals to a very Twitter heavy manosphere of like guys who just discovered Marcus Aurelius and now post like the daily stoic insights for your life. And, like, John Wick doesn't ever talk. So of course, like, yeah, he can fall off of a balcony and keep going because he just internalizes the pain and decides to to not express it ever, you know?
Yeah, exactly, man. It wouldn't surprise me if he was Irish. Like, just bury the boy, bury the boy.
I do think that it's hard for me to talk about John Wick without doing like a really bad accent, because everybody in this movie that talks about him, if they use the F word and then they use an accent, they're just, you know, the fucking car belonged to fucking John Wick. Like, it's always John Wick. it's awesome, dude.
100%. This movie also kind of gave me like comic book vibes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you got that, but with the way that they put subtitles for some of the Russian words,
it was awful.
Especially like Baba Yaga in color, like it felt a little bit like a Wham pop bow, like 1960s Batman movie.
Yep.
Not that they were illustrating the hits, just there was something about it that made it feel comic booky to me. And it's stylized and it kind of works, but it's kind of chintzy.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
I want to talk a little bit about the influence this movie has had in the years since. And I think that there's a number of directions we can go. One of them is the rapid expansion of and then ultimately deterioration of an IP into a franchise. So like this movie comes out, then they're like, we want to take the parts of this that make sense to expand into a sequel. And I think it was a really great impulse. Like, you can't just keep killing things that are close to John Wick and having him revenge them. Like, that doesn't work. So what they decide to do in the second movie is like, there is an inciting incident, but it's more about building out the world of the assassins and the people that pay them and the rules of the Continental. And then the way the second movie ends, it's like, well, now John Wick has started basically an international manhunt for himself. And so then you get kind of like globe hopping in the third movie. And the fourth movie is just like way too indulgent. It's 3 hours long. Like, there's no reason for it to be that long. But it started with this tiny little hour-and-a-half film. It balloons to this 3-hour action epic. There's a TV show. There's a spin-off movie. I think it's really emblematic of the way that, like, we get very few original things these days. And then when something original hits, it's like, how do we milk this for all it's worth within like a 7-year span until nobody wants it anymore, you know?
And I think that's one of the problems is like, there's no stewardship of the IP. Right. It's just milking. And like, I think that there's a huge difference when you take an intellectual property and say like, what can we do that will best serve the universe we've created rather than the people who own the rights to the universe we created?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that like, I don't know if we'll ever really get a universe that is allowed to get popular and stay true to who it is. Because at some point, people with money, money bags and hold the purse strings get involved and they want to invest in it and make it profitable. And it's very hard for the author or director or writer of, a script or a book, novel series, whatever. It's hard for them to be like, yeah, no, I don't want, $40 million for the rights to my book. But what do you do when it just gets churned into the ground?
Yeah. Well, and then I think the other way that it influences cinema is kind of to your point. Like, it's this superhero comes out of retirement to kick ass genre that we keep getting. And it's always painted as, so there's a movie that this inspired called Nobody that came out a few years after it. It has Bob Odenkirk from, Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, as an ex-CIA agent that is just like a dad now, and then basically goes John Wick on people. And it's as ridiculous as it sounds, but it was fun. But there's a whole subgenre of movies that are like, it can't just be a guy who has something bad happen to him and then avenges them. It has to be a guy that like, oops, we killed the CIA, the number one assassin that the CIA used for 20 years as dog, and now he has to come murder everyone in the tri-state area. And it's a subgenre I kind of hate. This came out the exact same year as the first Denzel Equalizer movie, which has essentially the same plot. Like, ex-CIA operative, now living a quiet life, has to defend his friends from evil whatever. And there's like 3 of those movies now. It just seems like really lazy to be like, we don't know anything about this guy. And you come to find out he's like the world's most like machine-driven like assassin ever. He can never just be a guy.
I mean, I remember reading books by, I think the author is Vince Flynn, who like felt kind of like a Tom Clancy acolyte almost. But like his books start off with a CIA assassin spy who is trying to be married and live a normal life. And then his wife gets killed and he has to go back into the field and defend America and blah, blah, blah. So like it feels, and that was probably, I don't know, like 2003, 5, 7 area. So, this is a trope at this point, Bob. And the real question is like, do you feel like John Wick is a good, like, is it good? Does it work in that realm of trope? Does it do better than its imitators or predecessors?
I think it's good. And that's the weird thing is like, I think it is both pretty good at hinting at the Unforgiven route, which is like, he doesn't want to be dragged back in, and there is a sense of mournfulness. But then it's also like, I like it because it's also trashy and kind of ignores that whole side of things too. So it weirdly exists in this in-between world where it's like, it has its cake and eats it too. And that's why I think for me, the sequels are diminishing returns, because it's just like, how many people can John Wick kill this time? And at that point, I'd rather have like a Bourne movie or a James Bond movie. Because you made this point earlier, there's like stewardship of those franchises in a way that doesn't feel like, let's just stick John Wick in this situation and see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, even the Mission Impossible movies, like, sure, maybe a few of the early ones might have had some meddling. But I mean, honestly, I don't think they did. Like, Tom basically got to choose his director and they made the movies that they want to make. And here we are. Like, sure, Mission Impossible 2 exists, directed by John Woo. Already mentioned on this podcast. And besides that, kind of misstep within the franchise, like, Tom Cruise has steered the franchise incredibly well. And I do think that there is a beauty to allowing a author, and I'm using that to stand for whatever it is, director, movie star, whatever. But the author of an IP to be the guiding voice. And we've seen what happens when the author of a franchise is removed in Disney Star Wars. So F them.
I like how that was kind of a verb. The author is removed and Disney Star Wars.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, on that note,
Bob, let me tell you about how much I hate Disney Star Wars. How much time do you have?
I actually had no idea that you were not a fan. This is news to me. I keep these things close to my vest. So, well, Brad, on that note, I think it is time for us to get into our last segment of the day, which we call Let's Make It a Double.
We're near the end of the episode, so thanks for listening to the Film and Whiskey Show. Let's pair another film with this one, even if it's a struggle. It's our final segment of the day, now let's make it a double.
Let's Make It a Double is the part of the show where we pick a movie to pair up with this one to make the perfect double feature. Brad, I think you're right in that I have spoiled all of my potential picks for Let's Make It a Double. So I'm going to try to rack my brain.
You mentioned like 18 different
I know,
movies.
Man. I'm going to rack my brain for a second while you give me your perfect pairing here.
I think I am going to go with... I'm trying to decide if I want to do the first or the second Bourne movie. I honestly, at this point, I don't remember the name of the second Bourne movie. So it's Bourne Identity... Ultimatum's the third one. What's the second one?
Supremacy.
Supremacy. I think I'll go with Bourne Supremacy. We've already talked about Bourne Identity on this show a few times. I think Supremacy falls more in line with this because it follows him as, his girlfriend, wife that they escaped together died. was killed by assassins, and he goes on a revenge spree to get himself out of the game again. So, same movie, and I'm going to recommend it because it was a good action flick.
I just thought of a movie, and I don't know how well it actually connects or not, but I'm going to go with it, Brad.
Just because you didn't mention it already.
Exactly. It's a George Clooney movie called The American. It came out, 2010-ish. And it was still while George Clooney was like making big movies that were going for Oscars. And so it's a movie about an assassin, but it's definitely more of like a art housey vibe. But it captures that sort of mournfulness that I was talking about with Unforgiven. The sense that like you can never really escape your past. You can never really leave that life behind, no matter how much you try. And the sense of kind of tragedy and fate involved in that. I remember really loving that movie, and I haven't seen it in at least 10 years. I'd love to go back and rewatch that. So I'm going to pair it with John Wick to give myself that opportunity. It's called The American.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, I do think that there's something powerful about the message that our choices matter. And that, whether it's emotional or relational or assassin related, like our actions have consequences and they're going to follow us. I don't know if I always like the lack of grace involved in movies like this, that, we are cursed, you and I. This is the life we shall live.
Last note I'll make on John Wick. The guy that plays the sniveling son, do you know who that is?
Alfie Allen.
Alfie Allen. We talked about him a few weeks ago on Jojo Rabbit.
Mm-hmm.
I would not have known that. He had very puby facial hair in this one. Unrecognizable behind that very puby facial hair.
How'd you describe that, Bob? What is it like?
It was very reminiscent of pubes, Brad.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I think our audience needs to hear you say that at least 4 more times before.
I'm trying to put enough emphasis on the word pubes that people understand what it is I'm referring to.
Yeah, it's not obvious if you don't.
All right. Well, those are our picks for Let's Make It a Double, presented by Blackwood Distilling Company. No matter what movie you choose to pair this up with, you can always make it a double with Blackwood. I want to say thank you again to our friend Zach Johnston from Blackwood and to the whole team at Blackwood for sponsoring us this season, for giving us a few bottles to try on air. Their stuff is absolutely fantastic. And if you've not gotten around to trying Blackwood, you can save on your own bottle by going to bourbonoutfitter.com/filmwhiskey and using our code FILMWHISKEY at checkout. Guys, I cannot recommend Blackwood highly enough.
Yeah, the Blackwood is officially in Friends of Show territory. They make incredible whiskey at a variety of price points. So if you're looking to get started with Blackwood, like Bob said, go to bourbonoutfitter.com, use the promo code bourbonoutfitter.com/filmwhiskey, I should say, and check it out because they make really good stuff. And we're very thankful for a partnership with them.
All right, Brad, we're going to give this movie some final scores. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I liked it way more than I remembered. I think because I was reading the sort of eye-rolling mythology and gadgets and stuff of the later films back onto this one, I was really pleasantly surprised at how lean and mean this thing was, and it didn't try to overreach and be something that it's not. And I respect that. I respect a movie that knows what it is. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm kind of in a similar place. I really enjoyed it. I don't know if I'll ever return to it, but it is a fun action thriller that has a lot of good mythos, world building, some great choreographed action sequences. I'm at a 7.5 out of 10. It's a fun flick. If you haven't seen it, and you like action films, go check it out. It's totally worth your time.
Is it a modern classic, Brad?
Nah. I know that it did a lot to advance the world of action film, but no, it's not a modern classic, Bob.
I think that I would say yes, but I don't think it's the best example of what it's trying to do. Like, I'd still point people toward The Raid if you just want like incredible fight choreography. But in terms of like capturing an American audience, popularizing this sort of stunt work, becoming a bankable IP, like I don't know many action movies this century that have that sort of reputation. You know, like the only other one that kind of came from the same place and expanded was the Taken franchise with Liam Neeson. Mm-hmm. But like those movies didn't change the way action films were made afterwards. And I think this one kind of did. So even though I don't think it's a great movie, I do think it's a modern classic, Brad.
Okay. Yeah, you are entitled to your own wrong opinion, Bob.
Well, I do think that sometime during this off season, what we'll do is we're going to name both every film this season and every movie that qualifies for those criteria from the last 20 years that we've reviewed on this show over our 9 seasons and try to put together the ultimate canon of 21st century movies, Brad.
Yeah, I think that'll be a lot of fun. It'll be cool to put it out there, and you could use that as like your own little AFI 100 list that you need to check off.
All right, so it's a 7.75 out of 10 from us on average. Folks, we will be back next week. And what we're coming back with next week is the reason that we do this podcast. At the end of every season, we put all 32 movies into a bracket, and we start whittling it down one by one until we can crown the champion of season 9. What we would absolutely love is if you guys would go to our website, filmwhiskey.com. We have the season 9 bracket on the site. The way we determine that is that we'll explain this in the episode, but we basically rank order the films based on the scores we gave them to get our seating in the bracket. It's a super fun time to listen along, but we'd like to know what your champion of season 9 would be. So you can let us know after you download your bracket at filmwhiskey.com. You can find us on any of our social media accounts, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube at Film Whiskey.
Or if you want to join the Discord, we are on that every single day talking to you guys, fans of the Film Whiskey podcast. So if you want to join the conversation, you can find a link at the end of every single one of our show notes.
Join us next week for the Bracket Challenge, but until then, I'm Bob Book.
I'm Brad G.
And we'll see you next time.